Same shit, different day, as I always say. I've already taken my first serving of Medibolic heart and kidney support. I've already taken my morning supplements. I'll take my noon supplements probably with my post-workout meal. I'm a little bit behind schedule with things today. It's been a bit of a shit show of a day. 2/3 of the way through check-ins. Normally I have all of my check-ins done before I train, but I'm gonna have to do the final third of the check-ins when I get home and then send them all off, because I don't send check-in responses off until I do all of them. That way I can just respond in a relatively timely manner to everybody as they start replying to their check-in responses. So yeah, pre-workout meal. Again, I've gone through the ingredients and the quantities and the macros of this meal in heaps of previous videos. Watch my recent 4 day of eating if you want to see what it is. The only exception is I'm flying solo with honey today. I ran out of jam, so it's just honey. I must have more honey to make up and account for the missing carbohydrates from the jam. I'll take a betaine HCl before this meal and 1,000 micrograms of SLU-PP332. And just to help with training, 1 serving of alpha GPC, 300 milligrams. Burn out the teeth. See you at the gym. Oh boy, this is going to be a late upload, but what is it that they say? Better late than never. Something along the lines of that. As I sit here on Friday evening feeling crippled in my office chair, I figured I'd do a voiceover of the session just because I forgot to plug the microphones in, so the audio quality isn't that great. It's not really good for ASMR or anything like that. So yeah, you can see me basically starting the session off with Chris. We're just basically making the session a little bit more efficient because we were both tight on time today. Us both being online coaches and us both being, I guess, pretty efficient with our use of time in the gym, just due to our hectic schedules. We decided to superset the warm-up sets of the preacher curls with the actual working sets of the calf raises. So you can see me doing a working set of calf raises here, while Chris does his first warm-up set on the single arm preacher curl bench. And then basically after I finish this working set, I'm going over there doing my first warm-up set, and he's doing his first working set of calf raises while I do that. But yeah, pretty time sensitive today, let's just say that. So we really had to kind of make the most efficient use of our time in the gym so we could get through our full session and get out on time and not be, I guess, shooting ourselves in the foot, so to speak, time-wise later in the day. And recently I also made some adjustments to my training sessions. So because I am doing limbs or legs and arms 3 times a week, I've decided to actually be even more of a reductionist and reduce my volume even further than what it was before this week. And part of that was due to the fact that I obviously regressed on some of my lifts last week. Pivot leg press, I couldn't even unrack the weight that I did the week prior. And I also went back, I regressed on hack squats the Sunday prior to this session. So this session was done on Thursday. So the Sunday prior to this session, I actually regressed on my hack squats. I believe I got a set of 5 at the weight that I got a set of 8 at the week beforehand, which was a 1 rep PR when I got it, but still nonetheless, it was a big drop off. And I just noticed a few lifts kind of suffered across the board over the previous week of training. So I figured, you know what, just to reduce the amount of supraspinal central nervous system fatigue, and just to obviously also give my joints a little bit more of a break because I'm feeling a little bit beat up and battered, I figured I'd reduce my volume to just 1 working set per exercise for arms, and then similarly 1 working set per exercise for legs. So I'm quite literally just going in and doing 1 set for each movement in these leg and arm sessions that I do now. So you see me do my first and only working set of single arm preacher curls before. Hit a rep PR, which was nice. And then actually it was a rep and a load PR. I did 41 kilo each arm for 7 reps, I believe, which was 1 rep up from my previous best at that weight. And then Chris is doing his working set here. I believe Chris did 1 working set of these. He did 2 working sets of the facing away cable curls that we did next after this movement though. So he's still overall doing a little bit more volume than I am. I'm the real reductionist here. But depending on how Chris goes, he may even reduce his volume. It just really depends. I mean, at the end of the day, you only want to be doing the amount of volume that is going to serve you, right? You don't want to be doing anything that's going to be a disservice to you. So if doing more volume is appealing, yet it is detrimental and counterproductive to your progress and moving forward, then you need to kind of make a tough decision, right? You're at a crossroads. You can either keep doing what you enjoy doing at the expense of slightly subpar progress, or you can just cut your losses, swallow your pride, swallow your ego, and just push aside what you want to do for what you need to do and shave a set off. So that's what I did. And if Chris obviously needs to do that, he'll do the same thing. Chris is very process driven like myself. We want to do what's going to get us the best results. Yes, training enjoyment matters to a degree, but how much so? Not as much as actually progressing forward and moving the needle. So yeah, you got to consider that. And then you see me here doing my one and only set of facing weight cable curls. I've progressed the load quite quickly on these over the last few weeks, I'll be honest, but I think a lot of it is just neuromuscular adaptations because I wasn't able to do it for so long due to the subluxation of the right shoulder that I did back in December on the 20th last year. So now that I've had a few kind of consecutive, consistent weeks of training the facing weight cable curls, my strength is returning quite aggressively and quite rapidly, so to speak. And then you see me doing my third and final elbow flexion exercise of the session, or curl variation of the session, which is a reverse curl just to hit the brachioradialis a little bit more. And you don't need to do the full range of motion to target brachioradialis. The brachioradialis is predominantly active in that top half of the range of motion, so kind of like from 90-degree elbow flexion all the way up to 45-degree elbow flexion. And the seated preacher or seated easy bar reverse curl is a fantastic choice for targeting the brachioradialis, and also just limiting a lot of momentum because you're seated, so you can't get a lot of body language or body English involved. And from there, it was onto the triceps. So I did one working set of tricep pushdowns here, full stack plus 8 increments, which I believe works out to be an additional 23.5 kilo or thereabout, about 23.4 kilo, I think. And that was a rep PR there, so I was real happy with that. Again, triceps have been progressing like crazy lately, and I think part of the reason is because I'm finally pressing again. Knock on wood, I don't hurt myself again. After that subluxation of the shoulder that I just mentioned that I had back in December on the 20th, I wasn't able to press for a long time. And obviously, triceps are a secondary mover in a lot of presses. And I think because the triceps are finally getting trained in different positions, a lot of the muscle atrophy in certain muscle fibers of the triceps that occurred from having to abstain from pressing is starting to make a return, and that's allowing me to kind of, I guess, progress triceps a lot more aggressively or a lot quicker. But after that, after the push downs, we moved on to French press. Again, we both just did one working set of French press here. Chris is dealing with a little bit of a niggle, I guess you could say, in his, I guess you could say his back, upper back, just so I don't want to get technical with terms and confuse anybody watching. Basically, just from overextending through his thoracic, and potentially just retracting a little bit too much in previous weeks, he got a little bit of a strain in his upper back, and basically he's just been reducing volume. He was actually doing tricep kickbacks for a while in place of French press just to really limit the amount of recruitment of those fibers that he was getting. But now that things are feeling a little bit better, he's just returning to French press so we can obviously line our training back up together. But he's just really focusing on being conscious and cognizant of the amount of thoracic extension he's getting. So he's trying to maintain a bit more of a stack, keep a little bit more compression so he doesn't over or hyperextend through the mid upper back. And I did a rep PR at that load on the French press. I believe it was 85 kilo. And so I was real happy with that. And then you see me here doing my one working set of seated hamstring curls. Now, prior to this, it was 2 working sets of seated hamstring curls, no lying hamstring curls in this session. But I've since spoken to Chris and basically reasoned with him, and he agrees with me. We're going to start doing 1 working set of seated hamstring curls and 1 set of lying, just to target different fibers, because due to the whole regional hypertrophy argument, you are going to bias specific fibers more or less in different variations of the hamstring curl due to the amount of hip flexion or hip extension there is. And so just to get a broader spectrum coverage of stimulus across all fibers of the hamstrings, we're deciding that we're just going to do 1 set of each variation as opposed to 2 sets of 1. And that's what I'm kind of doing across all 3 of my limbs sessions. Now I'm doing 1 set of seated and 1 set of lying 3 times a week. So I hit a rep PR and a load PR on the seated hamstring curl. I believe it was a full stack plus 10 or 15 kilo. I think it was full stack plus 15 kilo if you count the increments that you drop down on the machine. If you just count the plate, full stack plus 10 kilo was what I got on the seated hamstring curl. And I believe it was for 7 or 8 reps. And I did a similar thing here on the lying hamstring curl. I hit a rep PR at this load, which was 8 reps. 8 reps at the full stack plus a 10 on the lying hamstring curl. Again, when I'm doing hamstring curls, I'm really focusing on trying to line up my joints, line my hips with my knees and my ankles, just so they're in kind of like a straight line to maximize force production and minimize torque at the joints. And on top of that as well, when I'm doing the seated hamstring curl, I'm focusing on that, but I'm also focusing on generating a counter force, more so on the seated hamstring curl, but also on the lying hamstring curl here, focusing on generating a counter force through the thighs as I curl the weight. And when you're curling on the lying hamstring curl, you don't want to think about kicking the weight. You want to think about dragging the weight toward your bum, if that makes sense. Dragging the weight toward your bum and creating a counter force by driving the thighs into the thigh pad. And if you do that, you'll get a insane contraction in the hamstrings. From there, it was onto the leg extensions, just one working set here. This was a load and a rep PR, I believe. And I was quite happy with this, but my knees were not happy with it. After this, and also after the pivot leg press, which is coming up after this, I have to say my knees felt agonizingly painful for a solid 30-45 seconds after the set finished. Kind of when you relieve the pressure of unloading the weight, like once you finish the set and that load just comes off of the muscle, you just feel the joint kind of flare up. That's the best way I can describe it, and that's what I felt on the leg extensions. But it was in the short term, it was worth it for the PR. But obviously, I'm feeling quite crippled now, so it makes me question whether it was really, in fact, worth it. And then you see Chris hammering out the full stack with a 20 kilo plate like an absolute maniac. He's got very strong quads. I'll give him that. Chris, we make jokes to each other. We always say, if only I could have Chris's quads and if only Chris could have my glutes and hamstrings, would be the perfect bodybuilder when it comes to lower body strength, performance, and development. In saying that, though, Chris has real good lower posterior. In terms of development, I'm just stronger than him because I do have a sprinting background, and so glutes and hamstrings are very powerful and very strong. And not only that, I also have a powerlifting background, so just all of the heavy deadlifting, hinging, all of the sprinting in my past has just, I guess, caused epigenetical changes and physiological adaptations that allow me to generate a lot of force through the hamstrings and glutes. But my quads have always been a weak point, as you can see. But this was a good session. I hit, I believe, 10 reps, which was a 1 rep PR at 9 plates per side. And the week prior, like I said, I couldn't even unrack this weight to start the set. And the week prior to that, I hit a 1 rep PR of 9 reps of this. So a fortnight later from my last rep PR, I hit another rep PR in this. I was real happy with it. But yeah, that was the session pretty much in a nutshell, with the exception of one additional exercise that I have included moving forward in this training session, which I'll get to in a moment. But before I do get to that final exercise, which is a hip thrust variation, the Nautilus glute drive, which is arguably my favorite hip thrust machine ever in existence, I just thought I'd show you Chris's top set of the Cybex squat press, just to put things into perspective in terms of how strong this guy actually is when it comes to quads. This is 10 plates aside, 10 plates, so an additional plate on top of what I was doing. 10 plates aside for something ridiculous. I think it was like 13 reps. I'll have to double check. I'll count the reps as we're watching it here. So that's 1, 2, 3. But look how low his foot placement is. Just 11. Yeah. 14. Yeah, absolutely insane. 14 reps. 14 reps with 10 plates aside, just absolutely belittling my 1 rep PR that I got this session. But in saying that, we all have our own strengths and weaknesses. We're all unique in that way, in that regard. And some of my strengths are Chris's weaknesses and vice versa. It's just the way it is. We're different structurally, and it's always going to be that way. But yeah, as you can see here, doing my one working set of glute drive, I actually have to buy the gym pin extenders because I've maxed out the machine. You can see Chris pushing the plates back on here because they're just starting to slide off as I'm doing my set. But yeah, that's going to be on my birthday wish list, the gym pin extenders, that's for sure. Anyway, I'll wrap the voiceover up here and I'll let you get back to the rest of the video. A few of the essentials have arrived. Betaine, HCl and pepsin for digestion, nattokinase for maintaining normal blood viscosity and helping prevent clots, awana extract, awana bark, fantastic for your heart. It actually works somewhat like a pharmaceutical drug called digoxin. Not quite the same, but similar effect. And yeah, it's great for just overall cardiovascular health. Obviously, I'm not recommending you take this, but I take it daily. And it was on clearance, so I got 4 bottles of that. And then I also got melatonin, which is actually technically not allowed in Australia without a script, but I couldn't give 2 shits. So I ordered 2 years supply of that. Dihydroberberine, help with glucose utilization and glucose uptake on my high days. And a secondary benefit of it too is it actually does help with cholesterol to a degree. Zinc carnosine to help improve digestion as well and just repair some of the gut issues that I have from over a year-long stint of using antibiotics back in Thailand. My digestion still isn't 100% yet, so yeah, just some essentials. There's actually a link in the description if you want to get yourself some stuff from iHerb, and I believe it will apply a 5% discount from memory. So yeah, link in the video description if you want to use that. Okay, post-workout meal, that's what's about to go down. I'll put the macros up on the screen and I might watch the new season of The Boys while I eat this. But productive training session all in all. I hit a rep or a load PR on pretty much everything, and that included the pivot leg press, which was definitely redeeming after last week's session. This session that I did last week, I don't believe I actually uploaded it, but I wasn't even able to unrack the weight that I did the week prior for 9 reps. So I had to actually back the weight off. I had to go, 6 plates aside on the pivot leg press for 15 to 20 reps because I couldn't even unrack 9 plates aside to do a single rep. So it was a bit demoralizing, I'll say that much, but you win some, you lose some, and that's the reality of it. Progress in training, especially when you're experienced, when you're a seasoned lifter, when you've got more than 3 years, which I have well and truly more than 3 years. I mean, fuck, I've been training for say 15 odd years. When you've got experience in the gym, progress is going to be slower and it's not going to be linear on the short term. In a short term time frame, progression as an experienced lifter is going to be somewhat non-linear. It's going to be undulating, but the overall trend line, when you draw it through say a year of training, should be on a linear climb. And that's exactly the case. I mean, last week was just a shitty week, an off week for whatever reason. There was a number of variables, a number of vectors that were different to usual. I had a couple of days where I didn't take creatine, and yes, I mean creatine, I don't mean drugs. I'm literally on TRT and that's it. There was a couple of days where I didn't take creatine, and I normally take 10 grams of creatine per day for the performance and the cognitive benefits. So not taking the creatine, slightly less hydrated as a result of that. I also trained a little bit later than usual, which means I took my heart medication and I had a longer window of time between when I took my heart medication and when I trained. So more of an opportunity again for the diuretic effect of one of the medication that I'm on to take effect and to kind of play into my performance for the session. Training arousal was a little bit lower because I wasn't training with Chris. So there's a lot of variables, a lot of factors that weren't consistent with my usual Thursday training session. And for that reason, I think it was just a bit of an off day. And I also did a little bit of extra volume, did a couple of extra exercises 2 days prior in Tuesday's last leg day, which would have spilled over fatigue wise into that Thursday session. So yeah, it is what it is, but I hit a PR today. I got 10 reps at 9 plates aside. So if I can match that next week, it means the week or 2 after that, I'll probably increase the load to 10 plates per side and aim for about 4 to 5 reps and slowly build it up from there. But yeah, things are slowly moving forward. I'll tell you, my knees felt like shit after that set though. Just the unbearable amount of pressure through my patella and the tendons around it after that set of pivot leg press, but it eased off and it dissipated pretty quickly about a minute or so after the set. All right, so some time has passed since I last picked the camera up. It's currently 6:45. Michaela's on her way home from the Pilates studio, and I just wanted to show you something else that arrived yesterday, which I had to move into my office so the the two rag dolls we have couldn't continue gnawing fucking holes into the bags because I unpacked the delivery from the box and I had these bags sitting on the kitchen bench and the little shits chewed into them and bit their way into them, and it's just been an absolute fucking disaster since that happened. I had to move them in here so they can't obviously destroy them any further because there was powder product leaking all over the bench. But what I did is I picked up some taurine from bulk supplements, I picked up some L-theanine, I picked up some 5-HTP. I also picked up some magnesium glycinate, and I picked up some glycine powder. So I've got some containers to put those in. Yeah, you're the culprit, aren't you? No, it's actually your brother. So Charlie's actually the biter. That was Frankie, but Charlie's the one that bit into the bags. Now, what am I doing? Where am I? The containers I bought to put them in are right here. I'll basically just use the label maker, make some labels, and I'll put all of the separate ingredients into here. Then that way I can basically just make my own sleep formula because it's too expensive to be buying zombie labs blackouts. It's just unjustifiably expensive for what it is. So I figured I'd do that, and then my melatonin tablets have arrived too, so I've got my full sleep stack kitted out for the next couple of years, which is fantastic. So a small price to pay up front for a long-term convenience, if you ask me. Anyway, I'm going to wrap the video up here now. If you did enjoy it, please don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Say goodbye, Frankie. Frankie, say goodbye. All right. Peace.